So, Chris Wilder has made a sensational return to Sheffield United following the sacking of Ruben Selles. It's another return for Chris Wilder, and in this one, we're going to look at what this version of Sheffield United could look like under Chris Wilder. First and foremost, though, let's have a little chat about the sacking of Ruben Selles and that decision to replace him once again with Wilder. Now, first and foremost, people will have their say on this. People will say that you shouldn't go back if you've sort of really gone quite deep and quite hard on a change in philosophy and style and approach, and clearly a new strategy when it comes to recruitment as well, as we saw over the summer. People think that going back is a bad move, but actually, I think it's quite a sensible one. And it shows that these owners are able to put their ego to one side and say, no, we made a mistake. And it's time that we go back to something we know works. Before we carry on with the video, I want to say a massive thank you to today's sponsor, Match Bingo. If you like bingo and you like football, which hopefully you do like because you're watching this channel, this is a perfect game for you. Every free kick, corner or goal could be your ticket to a full house. If you're over 18 and live in the UK, grab yourself the Match Bingo app, deposit £5 and get £10 free. That's some casual football fun in a bingo format for just a fiver. This on the screen now is the EFL style bingo card for you. You have 15 teams, and when your team scores, they turn purple. It's as simple as that. 2 lines win a prize, and a full house wins you the main prize. It really is that straightforward. There are other cards to choose from as well, even ones for specific matches. So if you've got a goal on there, that will count towards it. A corner is the same. They are all crucial in ticking off those elements of your Match Bingo card. As a little incentive for you right now, if you download the app and use the code JWP, you'll get yourself an exclusive 200% deposit bonus as well. Over £200,000 worth of cash has been paid out to players so far. This is football and bingo combined together in one brilliant app. Make sure you download the Match Bingo app today. Get yourself that card, click the link in the description below, or scan the QR code on the screen now. Anyway, on with the video. And it's as simple as that, I think. And Chris Wilder brings continuity. He brings guaranteed success in a way, especially at championship level. A lot of these players that are still here have been managed by Chris Wilder for quite a long period of time. And what Chris Wilder did last season was absolutely fantastic. He couldn't get them over the line. He couldn't win that promotion over Sunderland in the playoff final right at the death. But to accumulate that number of points, they were phenomenal. They were absolutely brilliant. And in most seasons, most championship seasons, that's enough to go on and win promotion. However, the owners wanted to make a change. They wanted to see a different stylistic approach. They wanted to see some slightly more front-footed football, and that's fine. That's common in the modern game. But it was brave, extremely brave, and it made Ruben Selles' job so much more difficult. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Ruben Selles should have had much longer, because I watched quite a bit of Sheffield United under Ruben Selles, most notably that recent game against Ipswich. They were terrible. Defensively in particular, you just would not get that under Chris Wilder. A team managed by Wilder is so much more organised, and under Ruben Selles, organisation was bottom of that list, clearly, evidently. And a line that really stood out, and this has just been announced, so this should be coming out very, very soon after this announcement has taken place, but I wanted to wait until it was done because the statement was quite interesting. And one thing that did stand out was a line that says, while the adoption of a different style of play was pursued with ambition, results have clearly not met expectations. And that reiterates the point I've just mentioned there. It's an ownership group that clearly are able to understand with their own 2 eyes what is going on and go, we tried something, we gave it a go, but we're also able to park our ego and go back to something we know. And fair play to Chris Wilder as well. He took on the job. He clearly absolutely adores Sheffield United, and this was an opportunity that he just wanted to get back into, and that's only going to increase his admiration and his level of affection he has with those Blades supporters. And let me know, Blades fans, in the comment section down below, how do you feel about this homecoming? Because I think it was the right thing to do, and very clearly through the power of social media and how noisy that was with the disappointment of Ruben Selles and his tenure, and now the cry for Chris Wilder to return. I think that's been extremely powerful, and it's good to see an ownership group able to listen to supporters as well. And that's quite refreshing as well. This is on the screen now, the JLA Tactics board, and I've put together the last starting 11 that Chris Wilder has. And this is quite difficult, really, because I want to do these videos where we break down what these new managers could sort of set up like in their new club. But this one's quite bizarre. The first one of the season is extremely bizarre because we sort of know what Sheffield United looked like under Chris Wilder. In fact, we definitely do know because it was very, very recently that he was at the helm there. But there have been some changes over the summer, and I'm intrigued to see what this, which players fit, which players I've got a few question marks over, and maybe the departures and how they've been replaced, and which players suit Wilder and which players don't. Because, like I said, there was a change in approach stylistically, and that meant a change in recruitment strategy, and that's going to be fascinating. But this is the starting 11, and you can see here, of course, Cooper in goal, he remains. Burrows at left back, he played a lot of minutes last season. Cooper and Burrows played the most number of minutes for Chris Wilder in the Championship last season. Robinson again was someone that played a lot of minutes. Now, Ahmedovich is someone that has moved on, so that's going to be interesting. That's going to be fascinating to see how that is replaced. But we know that, of course, they have put a lot of time, effort, and financial power into that back line when it comes to recruitment this summer. So more on that in just a second. Chowdhury, of course, was on loan from Leicester. He's returned to Leicester. He's been playing for Leicester in the Championship this season. So a new right back. We'll discuss that in just a second. Souza has departed the football club. He played a lot last season. Peck, of course, he remains. He played a lot under Wilder in the Championship last season. Gus Hamer, he also stayed as well, which was a bit of a surprise for quite a few. That looked like one that was almost inevitable. That felt like a departure that was just going to happen. He remains, so that could be quite significant. Chris Wilder, of course, is a big fan of Gus Hamer and knows what he can bring. Campbell is also a Sheffield United player still as well. Brewster and Moore are not, though. Brewster's gone to Derby, of course. He didn't sign a new contract, and Moore's gone to Wrexham. Again, those are two players that play quite a bit as well, and Moore was quite important to the way that Chris Wilder liked to play. They did go quite direct. In fact, I've got here an interesting stat for you about their long balls. They had the third most accurate long balls per 90 last season with 23.8. That's a fair few direct balls. And Kiefer Moore was someone that often dropped into this position, and Campbell was that player that could play in behind. They have lost more, so we'll touch on that in just a second. They have brought in other strikers. We'll sort of understand what that could look like. But really, if you take those players out of the side and we look at what is left, you can see here there will be some work required to that back line, but there has been money spent. The midfield will need a little bit of work potentially, and these players, Moore and Brewster, have also left as well. So from that starting 11 against Sunderland in the playoff final, 5 players remain, which is interesting. Let's now bring up the squad depth from this season. Let's take a look at Sheffield United this season. And you can see here, as if by magic, all of these players have arrived. In fact, we can highlight the new players as well because there was a lot of work done. Godfrey joined, Tanganga, McGuinness, Ben Mee, Zatterstrom joined as well. Samare joined, Matos joined, Chong joined. A couple of new strikers as well. Danny Ings being one, Ogbene being the other. Ukaki's new as well, I believe. So quite a bit of work. Lots of work done. Bindon as well. A lot of work done to that back line. And when we look at what that looked like last season with those players that have departed, clearly the back line was looked at and strengthened. So what could this look like now with this Chris Wilder team going forward? Now, interesting. Let's start with the goalkeeper because Cooper's going to play. Cooper was massive for Chris Wilder last season. He remains. He's going to be the number one goalkeeper. Burrows, like I said, he stays as well. So the goalkeeper and the left back situation, I think, is absolutely fine. Now, the back line. Let's just quickly just focus on that back line and unhighlight those forward players here. Now, I think Robinson left as well, and he was a left-footed defender. In terms of the players that have come in, lots of right-footed centre-backs. Zatterstrom is left-footed. He hasn't played for Sheffield United yet this season. Bindon is on loan from Nottingham Forest. He's right-footed. Tanganga's right-footed. McGuinness is right-footed. And Godfrey's right-footed as well. Of course, Godfrey can play at right-back. And I think Godfrey will play at right-back. That's how I'm feeling. I don't think he's The same as Chowdhury. Of course, Chowdhury's a midfielder, really, by trade, who stepped into midfield, did play at right back quite a lot for Sheffield United last season, and he can be that traditional right back. I think Ben Godfrey can do it. I think he is that player that if Chris Wilder often, for example, Burrows was a player that we know likes to bomb on into those forward areas, having a slightly more defensive option at right back is very, very common. And Ben Godfrey does give you that because naturally he is a centre back. So I think Ben Godfrey makes a lot of sense, and I think he's going to be an important player. I think Ben Mee is going to play a fair bit as well. I do believe that. We know last season Robinson was left-footed. We know that he did certainly favour him. I think Chris Wilder likes to have a left-footed centre-back in that back four. Now, he's played with a back three before, of course, at Sheffield United. Last season, it was predominantly a back four. I think Ben Mee could play a bit more than people think. McGuinness played at left-sided centre-back in Ruben Selles' last game, so that's a possibility. McGuinness can do that too. So I think Tanganga looks to be the first choice option at right centre back. He's got that physicality. He's got that ability to play out from the back, which, is a slight change. And there was an adjustment to Chris Wilder's side last season. It wasn't, they spoke about this change in philosophy and, look, on paper that didn't work. But actually, Chris Wilder didn't get a lot of credit for it, but I actually thought they were slightly more proactive last season. They were certainly the most attacking version of a Chris Wilder side at the Championship, and actually at most levels we've seen for a very, very long time. I did thoroughly believe that. So I don't think he got a lot of credit for it. Tanganga's someone that I think will do that, and you've got plenty of options there. Ben Mee is a left-footed centre-back. I think Zatterstrom, I'm not quite sure what's going on with him. He could be injured. Please enlighten me. But I know he's joined and he is left-footed. That could be something that happens. And Ben Godfrey, I think, is the perfect right-back in this Chris Wilder side. So all in all, not many issues for me there. I think that back line has seen a lot of work. I think all of them are fine. I think they will certainly make an impact. And again, the reason why Ruben Selles lost his job wasn't because people were moaning about the recruitment. I think the recruitment was absolutely fine. Those defenders are certainly Championship level, if not better. So I think there's going to be absolutely no concern to me with that back four. Moving into midfield, this is quite interesting. Of course, Sousa left the football club. Samare was brought in. He excites me, actually, from what I've seen so far. And of course, they've all been playing in a team that have not been fantastic, but he seems very athletic. He seems a very, very good tackler. Out of possession looks strong. I haven't seen a lot of him on the ball. That might not be because I'm not saying he's poor on the ball. I just haven't seen enough of that. But I thought out of possession, he looks good. Like I said, I thought his tackling and his work rate in those off the ball elements look good. So Samare, I think, could potentially be a Sousa replacement. Differences, of course, but I think that is an option for sure. I think Peck will play. Arblas's injury is a very, very concerning one. I think Arblas is a very, very talented footballer. I think Sheffield United fans are excited by Arblas. They just have not seen a lot of him recently with that injury. And Matos, again, this one's interesting as well because I saw Matos play last season for Oxford United on loan, and he actually quite often played in this number 10 position. And the reason for that was he was a really good screener, a really good presser, and someone that was able to sort of cover a lot of ground. On the ball was good, technically looked quite exciting. We didn't see a lot of his passing ability because Oxford United didn't have a lot of the ball under Rowett last season. So a lot of Matos and the qualities of him came from his work without the ball. And that could be something that Chris Wilder could use himself as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Matos higher up, not because he's a natural creator, but because he's an extreme hard worker. Now, the contradiction to that is you've got your natural creators in Gus Hamer, you've got your Callum O'Hares that can do that, and even Chong as well, who hasn't had that opportunity yet. He's someone that can also give you versatility on both sides and also can play in that number 10 position. So perhaps not, but Matos is an interesting one. People will say that he's this sort of just robust number 6. He isn't really that. He's a really good progressor of the ball and he can operate higher as well. But as options go, I think Matos is a really fascinating one. On a permanent deal, a young player. Again, I think he does suit that hard work and that work rate that is crucial in a Chris Wilder team. So that, again, those additions, I'm not massively worried about that. I don't have many concerns whatsoever. Let's move into that front three. This is, I think, where the most change could occur, starting with Louis Barry on the left. Hasn't been great so far this season. I think that's fair to say. And I think that's one that I'm not going to say it was a Ruben Selles signing, but his best time was at Stockport. He then joined Hull City when Ruben Selles was there. He was injured. He then joined Sheffield United, reuniting with Ruben Selles on loan from Aston Villa. Has he been fantastic so far this season? Absolutely not. And we do know that Gus Hamer on this left-hand side was used, and he did, it was common that he started here and then moved into these inside pockets as well. Now, Louis Barry can do that. I think he's someone that wants to do that as well. So, sort of as the two go, I think you've got some really good options there. I don't think it's one that's not going to work out, but I think he's probably one of a very, very few players that will be quite disappointed by the sacking of Ruben Selles, purely because I think he was a big advocate for him joining Sheffield United this summer. Like I said, ability-wise, can't knock it. We know what he can do, but we also know that Gus Hamer likes to do that as well and likes to play in that similar role. So, I mean, positive spin on things. You've got two players that can certainly do it. The problem for Louis Barry is it's always going to be Gus Hamer, really, isn't it? So that's going to be interesting. That number 10 position, and again, there were times where they didn't play with a number 10 in that playoff final. If you go and look at the average positions, it was actually more that would drop into this sort of deeper position, win that first ball, play it to Campbell in behind, and in transition, that worked effectively. Those direct balls, that was something that happened. And again, you've got players like Chong who can play on the left, can play on the right, could even do a job up front as well. So, and if you move to a back three, if that does happen, I don't totally see it, but if it does, Chong can also play in those fullback positions as well. So you've got your number 10s here. You certainly do. I'm intrigued to see what that could look like. And if, with Moore now not at the club, he could revert to playing with a number 10. And Callum O'Hare could play a really big role as well. And we know that his energy, what he brings is very, very important. He's extremely energetic, and we know that they're aggressive, Sheffield United, in that press, out of possession. They're certainly a hard-working side, and that's why I think O'Hare plays a big part. On the right-hand side, Ogbene joined on loan from Ipswich. And I think Ogbene, we know what he can do at Luton. He was absolutely fantastic. Moved to Ipswich in the Premier League, injured for large parts of that season. And then, clearly those opportunities were going to be limited. He got that loan move to Sheffield United. Of course, strengthening what we thought was going to be a sort of top-end Championship divisional rival. That hasn't been the case so far. I think he's still going to come good. Really strong, powerful, wide player, full of pace, full of athleticism. I think he's going to be certainly suited. And you're replacing Brewster, who, again, was a bit more of an inside forward at times, certainly hard work and covered a lot of ground, but also someone that could attack the box as well, being that natural striker. Brewster played quite an interesting role under Chris Wilder. Of course, he's now left the club. So lots of exciting wingers there. Again, Brooks is very direct, very 1v1. Yukaki, we haven't seen lots of him, but he seems to be quite an exciting 1v1 threat. Ogbene, I think, is someone that can, from his time at left wing back as well, work those channels. Certainly someone that isn't afraid to come back and help out, with Godfrey being that strong option at right back, who again is, I'd say, defensive first, if you put it politely and bluntly, having those 1v1 threats and those players that can run at fullbacks, maybe not needing that support as much from the other players. I think you've got lots of options there, but I think Ogbene is going to play a big part. I think he suits Chris Wilder's hard-working wide player approach extremely well. Now, up front, Campbell played a lot last season. Of course, I think he was the top goal scorer for Sheffield United last season as well. So, of course, Chris Wilder's going to be very, very happy that he isn't moved on. He scored a total of, last season, let's quickly get those numbers up for you, 10 goals last season, shared with Tom Cannon. I think the majority of those goals came at Stoke City, not at Sheffield United. So that's going to be quite interesting. Keeping Campbell's important, and having him a part of the squad is going to play a part. Danny Ings, again, this is someone that brings experience. Is he slightly? I don't think we're going to see the pace of Danny Ings potentially that in his prime years we did see. But again, as a finisher, you can't knock it given those opportunities. I think Danny Ings is someone that can still convert chances. Does he totally fit now? Maybe. Tom Cannon, again, signed under Chris Wilder, hasn't worked out yet, but he's going to get another opportunity to impress the manager that brought him in. So that's going to be fascinating to see how that unfolds. Before we finish, I am going to put together a potential lineup because I think that's fair. So in goal, I think it's fair to say Cooper is going to get given that opportunity. So Cooper will remain the goalkeeper. I don't see that changing. Now, like I said, I went quite heavy on Ben Mee. Being that left-footed centre-back, I could be going a bit too far with that. But I think, again, Wilder does like that experience. He does want those experienced heads in that side. That's why Robinson played quite a lot of football last season. Now, on a technical basis, and maybe when we look at the pace of that back line, no disrespect to Ben Mee, playing someone like McGuinness or Bindon there isn't a bad option. But I'm going to say that Ben Mee gets a bit more of an opportunity than people will make out. I could be wrong there, but I think Tanganga and Ben Mee is something we're going to see. It might well be McGuinness. I could be totally wrong there. Burrows at left back, I think, will be exactly the same. Now, there are options at right back, of course, but I think Ben Godfrey suits that. He likes to have a strong defensive minded option at right back. He can also step into there as well. He can move into a back three if you want someone like, let's move him back a second. If you want someone like Burrows to play her out of the pitch, you've got three natural defenders there. I understand. I get it. I think that'll be the back four. The midfield, slightly more difficult. I think we'll see Peck. I think Peck, someone will see. Ablas is difficult right now with that injury. Again, my gut says I think it's Peck and then a toss up between Samari and Matos. I think that's going to be a really interesting one. For now, I'm going to say it's tough. It really is tough. I don't think we've seen enough of them in a Sheffield United shirt. I like Matos. I really do. I think he's going to be quite good. I know he didn't have maybe the best of debuts against Ipswich, but not many did. Not many played well. I think the energy of those two works. The reason why I'm maybe doubting myself slightly is because Sumari does bring height, and Sousa also bring that height as well. So that could be something that changes. I'm going to say that Hamer returns to playing as that inside left-sided attacker. I'm going to keep Callum O'Hare in there. I think Ogbene is going to play a really important part. I think Cannon will get an opportunity. I think Danny Ings will play a role, but I think Campbell is going to be that starting striker. That right now is what I can see. Now, there could be a few changes for sure. He could revert to playing two strikers and play someone else in that position there. Quite possibly. Zatterstrom could be that left-sided centre-back if he becomes fit. He could go with someone like McGuinness or another right-footed centre-back at right-back instead of Ben Mee, but I'm going to go with Ben Mee there. And then again, I think Peck will play, and then that other midfield partner is going to be interesting. I've gone Matos. He could go with Sumari, but I think this is what I'm going to go with. Let me know, Sheffield United fans, in the comment section down below. We've tried to give a bit of an insight into what this Chris Wilder side could look like again. He returns again. Like I said, to reiterate and to sum up the point I mentioned earlier, I think it shows an ownership group that are happy to park their ego to one side and go, no, let's go back to something we know works. I think we've seen that here as well. It's going to be interesting. It's not been a good start to the season, but they've gone back to the man they trust the most, and that's Chris Wilder. Let me know. Take care. I've been Jack, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care.